Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 to 17. Here is my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. He will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his teaching, the islands will put their hope. This is what God the Lord says, the creator of the heavens, who stretches them out, who spreads out the earth with all that springs from it, who gives breath to his people and life to those who walk on it. I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind, to free captives from prison, and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not yield my glory to another, or my praise to idols. See, the former things have taken place, and new things I declare. Before they spring into being, I announce them to you. Sing to the Lord a new song, his praise from the ends of the earth. You who go down to the sea and all that is in it, you islands and all who live in them. Let the wilderness and its towns raise their voices. Let the settlements where Kedar lives rejoice. Let the people of Selah sing for joy. Let them shout from the mountaintops. Let them give glory to the Lord and proclaim his praise in the islands. The Lord will march out like a champion. Like a warrior, he will stir up his zeal. With a shout, he will raise the battle cry and will triumph over his enemies. For a long time, I have kept silent. I have been quiet and held myself back. But now, like a woman in childbirth, I cry out, I gasp and pant. I will lay waste the mountains and hills and dry up all their vegetation. I will turn rivers into islands and dry up the pools. I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. But those who trust in idols, who say to images, you are our gods, will be turned back in utter shame.
Are you fed up with carols yet? No? Okay, this is the third time this week I'm singing Hark the Herald, and I still love it. It's one of those features, isn't it, of Christmas that we sing. You may not be much of a singer. You may be a football fan, but when you get on the terraces, you sing like there's no tomorrow. But you can be guaranteed one thing about Christmas. Songs will be everywhere, normally playing in the summer in shops that are trying to sell their Christmas things. Or whether it's the Christmas number one that's coming this week. I know, sadness, Lad Baby doesn't feature this year. But apparently there might be a chance that the Pogues or Mariah Carey might finally reach a number one, apparently, according to the bookies. Not that I'm gambling, you know what I mean. In our house, there's always music. There's always music over Christmas. And sometimes I wonder if God, in his sense of humor, has chosen the piece of music that we're listening to reflect the mood of the house. You know, everybody's hungry and asking when's tea. And Feed the World is blaring out. And you think, okay, we're trying. Or as finally Sarah and I sit down, Christmas Eve, wrapping done, Silent Night. Yes, finally, people are asleep. So if you had to pick a song this Christmas to reflect the mood of life at the moment, what would you pick? Would you pick an upbeat, joyful number? It's Christmas! Or perhaps it's the most wonderful time of the year. Is that your mood at the moment? Life's good, and Christmas excitement is a taste of but life for you. Or perhaps you're on the more frenetic of the scale, you know, deck the halls with boughs of holly, la-la-la-la-la-la-la, shopping done and haven't finished, la-la-la-la-la-la. Or perhaps more the sad end. I'm not going to sing Elvis Presley, but Blue Christmas, reflecting that someone's missing for you, something's not right, it's not quite as you longed that it would be. Because probably if you looked at the world out there, we'd be forgiven for all being with Elvis, wouldn't we? Countries divided, places at war, divisions even in our own communities. Or as we look at services stretched, as we look at young people's lives being taken at an alarming rate, as we now see the cancer statistics at 1 in 2 suffering, 1 in 4 mental health, 1 in 5 can't pay their bills tonight. We'd be sticking our head in the sand, wouldn't we, if we thought in a Christmas time that the brokenness and struggle and suffering ceases. How can we sing, like we're going to sing later, a carol that says, joy to the world, when really, is that as fake as a fake Christmas tree? Well, even if that is us this morning, or if you were quite excited and now I've made you glum, we're in good company. Because that slightly strange reading that Colleen just read for us from Isaiah 42, I've not been to a Christmas service where Isaiah 42 has been read. It is one that we'll find good company in. It's written 7,000 years before Jesus shows up. It's written by a man called Isaiah to God's people in the Middle East. And he says to them in the midst of struggle and suffering, verse 10, sing. Sing a new song. No, he wasn't fed up with the old, nor go and choose something on the karaoke machine to bring us a smile. No, sing. Sing for Jesus. Really? 700 years before he was born? Now, thank you so much for so far being willing to sing. It would actually be quite a dull affair if we just had the choir singing and Harry blasting out and you lot were mute. But being commanded to sing, really? Well, it's something he says they're to do to the Lord. It's something he says they're to do from the cities to the coastline, literally everywhere. A song that even brings enemies together. Imagine Tottenham versus Arsenal fans singing together, or Man City, Man United, together in arms, singing, how great is God. Well, how are we going to do that? If we're supposed to sing, we may not be a Christian here today. And even if we are, we may not feel like we could sing to God. Because look what he's dealt me. Well, Isaiah wants us to see that you and I can sing whoever we are if we'll do this. If we'll see Jesus rightly. See him rightly. Not just the baby in a manger. Not just the Easter story of a man on a cross. But Jesus as he's presented here. Because look, as God presents, as he looks at a broken world, as he looks at his people struggling and suffering, as he sees them chasing after money and fame and power and success and career, as they see them still somewhat hopeless, he gives them an answer. And it's a servant. That doesn't sound very impressive, does it? You know, if I walked into the Middle East now, or if I went to the graveside of a grieving family and say, here's the answer, a servant. They look at me clueless, wouldn't they? But this servant promised is who all point to Jesus when he's born. All the writers of that story of Jesus point back and quote bits of this story that Jesus is this one promised. Not a big, strong politician, not a super military leader, not a big social media influencer. Unlike anyone that's been, he's not come to brutalize people, but one who's come to, by nature of being a servant, serve. That may already mess with your head, what you think about Jesus, not just a religious leader of the past. But we're going to see three things that his serving does to see him rightly. Firstly, he's gently bringing justice for all. Isaiah wants us to know, he says it 3 times, that this servant is going to bring justice to the nations, and he's not going to let up until it's done. And that's good news, isn't it? We live in a world of injustice at the moment. And whether you're woke or not, whether you watch the news or hide from it, doesn't your heart break as you see injustice around you? The unjust things done all over the place? Perhaps you yourself this evening may even be someone who's been the victim of injustice. Don't you long for someone to bring justice about? Someone to right the wrongs? Someone to bring them to an end? Our world at the moment, if justice needs to be done, we do it, don't we, by outing somebody. We publicly lynch them. Then we cancel them and try and eradicate all memories of them and have done with them. And this servant, through God, promises that justice will be done, wrong will be punished. A bit like, sorry football fans, a bit like having VAR, video assistant referee. I know it's a bit controversial at the moment because sometimes he gets it wrong or right. Or for cricket fans, the third umpire, the arbitrator of truth. Is it in or is it out? Or for even more controversial, the speed camera. Were you doing 38 or 30? He's going to be one that's going to come, no arguments. He's going to be God's judge, who bring God's standards to bear, whose God expectations of living God's way in God's world measured out on the world. It's a promise of one day this world standing before this servant being held to account. And then of a new world where evil is done away with, where evil is punished and squashed, justice is done, and a world of no more war or violence or hurt or problems or suffering or relationship breakdowns will be there. It's a picture that this servant will end evil. Nothing wrong. If I asked you all individually to put your hands up, who's up for that? I'm sure we all would be, wouldn't we? How would you expect someone to bring that about? To bring back an eradication of evil, to kind of right all wrongs and get rid of injustice? Great strength, great power, great wisdom, force, might, propaganda, exert control, manipulate. What would you say? Well, this servant repeatedly says he won't shout out or cry out or raise his voices in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, a smouldering wick he will not snuff out. You know those little candles burning brightly above your head? He'll be that gentle, he won't even blow you out. He's one that will treat you as you've never been treated. He won't break you like a bruised reed or snuff you out. He'll draw near in compassion. He'll bind up your wounds. And when Jesus walks on the earth, he doesn't just say he's going to fulfill these promises, he does it. He doesn't come with propaganda or power. He comes silently and quietly to a manger and then gently seeks to bring about justice for the most unlikely, the outcast, the sinner, the religious outsiders, the lower class citizens. He overturns those injustices. A man who seemingly looks at evil and has something to say and do about it, but then also points to the evil that resides even in our hearts. And then in a gentle and lowly and loving way, as John says, God so loved the world that he gave his Son so that none would perish. As he brings about justice for people who realize what they're like, as he suffers injustice on a cross. Don't you want to sing about a servant like that, who won't snuff you out, who will end all evil, who longs to bring you, someone who doesn't always do what's right, to a place of perfect justice and love? As we sang Away in a Manger, we remember the little one, the little baby, who's a gentle justice giver. Don't you want to sing about him? But that servant isn't done, because as well as being a gentle justice bringer, he's graciously bringing people to know God. Graciously bringing people to know God. A story is told during the Civil War in America. There was a soldier who lost both his brother and his dad to death on the same day. He had a mum and sister at home that were desperately in all sorts of trouble. They were struggling to make do. And he wanted to go and see the president to ask whether he could be relieved and go home. But even though he tried, he couldn't get in. They turned him away. And so he went to the park next door, sat on a bench, and just started sobbing. When a little boy came past and said to him, "Excuse me, sir, why are you unhappy? What's wrong?" The soldier thought he had nothing to lose, so he poured his heart out to this little boy. This little boy, age 6, nodded. "Come with me," he said. "What? Come with you?" "Yeah, come with me. I'll help." Okay, he thought he had nothing to lose. So he followed this little boy all the way up to the gates, past the guards that had previously said no to him, in through the front door of the White House. It turned right into the Oval Office, past the next layer of security. No hint of a whisper of who you are. In they went. In to discover Abraham Lincoln and his officers planning battle strategies on the desk. And this boy, without asking permission, said, "Dad, there's someone who needs to see you." And as that man explained his case, Abraham Lincoln sent him home back to his mum. One man, one boy, making sure a relationship between stranger and leader in one go. Imagine how that soldier felt as he left on what was the hardest day. He had joy. And that's the picture of what this servant will do. He says he'll take you by the hand. He'll take people who are blind, proverbially not able to see, who are, as his words, locked in a dungeon, who are stuck. And he leads them by the hand into a covenant, a relationship with the God of heaven and earth. Like a marriage between God and man, a relationship that people of all nations, no matter race, gender, background, or age, can have. A relationship with the one he longs us to know is the one who made the heavens and the one who made you and I. That's his servant. No price paid, no to-do list given, no things, ifs, buts, or maybes, or terms and conditions at the bottom. Gently led by the hand, creature and creator back together. Doesn't that make you want to sing? As I look at what Jesus is doing over the world, it makes me sing. As I see places like North Korea and Iran and Iraq, where people from all sorts of backgrounds, with all sorts of persecution, are coming to believe in Jesus, like Jing in North Korea, even in the midst of a concentration camp. It makes me want to sing when I see that's what Jesus is doing even here, even now, even in the UK, even in Wallington in our day and age, with my friend Steve. See, that's the gracious offer of Christmas. A baby who will lead you by the hand back to your Creator God. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no T's and C's. I wonder if you've ever been led by him. If you know that relationship that he longs to offer. Because that's what we sang in Hark the Herald Angels Sing, God and sinners reconciled. That's what he longs to bring. And when we grasp that, boy, wouldn't you want to sing? But he's not done there. Because this servant, gentle, gracious, finally guides people from darkness to life. Now, for 4 months of my life, I lived in Prague. It's a beautiful city in the Czech Republic. I was a student out there. I didn't speak any Czech. I'm hopeless at that. The beer was good and the city was great, and I did some engineering as well. But I had to find my way around that city, the good parts, the bad parts. I became a connoisseur of all guides, and after 1 month of working it out, finally I was ready to host my friends and family who came, including a friend who I managed to show the top 10 highlights of Prague in 24 hours. We covered 25 kilometers on foot. Over the space of just a month, I was taken from darkness of a city into the light of its rich history and wonder, and could help others do the same. Well, that's what this servant is pictured doing, of taking people from darkness to light. And not about getting around a city like Prague, but about being guided from the darkness of living in this world to the light that a relationship with God brings. You see, the darkness is pictured of one that is kind of stuck. There's obstacles to overcome. If you're not a Christian here tonight, what stops you being led by Jesus by the hand? Perhaps there's some personal incapacity. I just can't work it out for me. It just doesn't make sense for me. Perhaps it just seemingly is ignorance. I don't know what he wants to offer me. I don't know what he wants to ask of me. And like all good contracts, I want to make sure I know what's being said. Perhaps there's barriers, things of the past, things done to you or by you or through you. Perhaps there's stumbling blocks. That's why Jesus is called the light of the world, to help people see the light. It took him 22 years of my life of stumbling around, even in the midst of church circles, for me to work out that he came to bring me from darkness of myself and this world into the light of a relationship. Not chasing after career or educational relationships, but knowing a relationship with him. It's what Jesus promises to keep on doing for his followers, of guiding them through life, leading them by the hand through the darkness of this world with all the insecurities and troubles it brings to the new world he promises, of guiding them through darkness. That's why we can sing, O little town of Bethlehem, because as the dark street shineth, the light burns bright in Jesus. Doesn't that make you want to sing? A servant who will lead you by the hand, not just once, but through life, guiding you. Do you want to sing yet? Do you want to sing for this servant, Jesus? He's God's solution for the world. He's gently bringing justice for all. He's graciously bringing people to God, and he's guiding people from darkness to life. One of the most terrifying responsibilities I've ever been given was when I started work here, and I'm given an official title of caring for the souls of all the people in this town. That's 25,000 people. Even my phone book isn't that big. But one of my longings is that people would be able to sing this song. Because this song that Isaiah longs God's people to sing, it isn't one of burden and trouble. It isn't one of being labored down and told what to do. It's a song of freedom and joy. It's a song that nations will sing at liberation, at rivals rejoicing together, of knowing the tenderness of a God who will not turn their back on you. It's a song that can be sung even in the midst of suffering, of loneliness, of sadness, or even disappointment. But if you don't want to sing that song, well, Isaiah ends with those words, but those who trust in idols, in other things, will be turned back in shame. There's a really interesting thinker, an author, an inspirational leader called Simon Sinek, and he's got this quote. It's nothing to do with Christianity. He's not a Christian. He said it's better to endure the discomfort of the truth now than to suffer the discomfort of a lie later. It's better to endure the discomfort of the truth now than to suffer the discomfort of a lie later. Might this servant be a discomforting truth now, rather than put it off and deny it and find out it wasn't a lie later? This Jesus foretold 2,700 years ago is the Jesus that walked the earth 2,000 years ago, who's the Jesus that's been changing lives since then across the world and in Wallington, and who longs you and I to sing. To sing not just these carols, but to sing a new song to him of thankfulness and greatness, of joy untold. Perhaps you're thinking about singing that song for the first time tonight. Why not talk with a friend who brought you, or come and find Harry or I? We'd love to chat with you. Perhaps you're unsure whether I want to sing. I'm not sure if I want to sing. Well, we'd love to invite you to on Christianity Explored. It's 1 hour, over 4 weeks, looking at Mark's claim of who Jesus is. We'd love to invite you along. Come and see. Ask any question. It's a chance to see what Jesus freely offers. Or perhaps you want to say, no thanks. Well, let me encourage you just to do one thing for me. Will you take this book home? It's called The 4 Emotions of Christmas: Sadness, Disappointment, Stress, and Joy. And see why the one that lasts everlasting is found in Jesus. Because when we sing, in the words of our last carol, be able to come and let us adore him. Who? Jesus Christ, the Lord. Let me pray, and then we're going to listen to the choir as they sing. Heavenly Father, you know our hearts, the song that is singing in our heads this day. We ask in your kindness and goodness, you'd help us to see Jesus rightly, gentle, gracious, and guiding. And may our hearts this Christmas sing with joy, whatever we're going through, singing of his amazing grace to us. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.